February 25th. I'd like to begin our meeting. And Coach Connolly is unable to be with us because his team is in the playoffs tonight. So we shall wish him well. We know how people get excited about playoffs in Foxborough. Our agenda tonight will be visitors, approval of minutes, teaching and learning highlight, the challenge day with Mrs. Diana Myers-Packler, FHS staff and students, superintendent's mid-cycle review, Dr. Amy Berdos, 2019 community report, our duo docs, Berdos and Mello, approval of the 2019-2020 school calendar, Dr. Berdos, Borough Elementary School renovation project update, vote to approve items to be considered for proprietary specifications, Medco lock cores, Aruba network switches, Epson IWB, Avalon security system card access camera system, Mr. Euchner. Then an FY19 budget update, Mr. Euchner. Acceptance of donations. FHS Music Department Australian trip. Credit Fair for Life. Taylor PT, Elementary PTO. We will end with other matters. Do we have any visitors this evening?
Our guests.
Yes, unexpected visitors. All right, approval of minutes, please. Any questions on the executive session of January 28, 2019?
I would move to approve the executive session minutes.
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor? 400.
I will move we release the minutes, the executive session minutes.
I'll second.
All in favor? 400. Thank you. Now, here is our draft for our regular meeting on January 28th. Are there any additions or corrections?
I had one minor correction, and I'm sorry to be a stickler, Janet. I had noticed this. So the second paragraph, it says on the first page, Ms. Bellinger noted the attendance of a Boy Scout in the audience observing the meeting as a requirement to earn his. It should say citizen in the community merit badge.
Thank you.
So,
Okay.
all right, thank you. That's it. Just citizen in the community.
Okay.
Thank you. That was my only change.
No, that should be noted like that.
I'd like to move to accept the school committee meeting minutes from January 28th as amended.
I'll second that.
All in favor? 400. January 30, 2019, the meeting with the advisory committee.
Yes, Marilyn and I were the only two school committee members there, but even though we weren't a quorum, it was a posted meeting, so I took minutes and Janet typed them up, so I just wanted to explain that. It was very good discussion with the advisory committee. I thought they asked a lot of great questions, and certainly Dr. Berdos and Dr. Mello and Mr. Yukna did a great job answering all the committee's questions and presenting our budget. But I just
Can't really accept.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, I guess if you guys want to vote to, that's why we have them, because it was.
Well, yes, because
it was a noticed meeting. I thought we opened it, we closed it, and I took meeting minutes, so.
That's fine.
I think we should accept them as part of our record because it should be noted. And I'm glad we can say that it was a successful discussion.
I thought it was an excellent discussion. The
That's
committee
what I-
asked very good questions, and, I I think we're lucky to have the members of the advisory committee we have currently. They do an excellent job vetting, not just our budget, but the whole.
And I heard from committee members of the advisory council that they felt that it went well, too.
I thought it did, yeah.
So would we like to enter this positive report?
The only thing was the vote, the original vote to open was probably 2-0.
It was indeed, because there were only two of us.
I noticed there was only two. and
Catch that
I didn't
myself.
either, I didn't either.
I was confused who left right after the opening.
No, it was just
Before we
the two of
closed it.
us, so
it was
thank
two.
you. Yeah, no, a good catch there.
So I wasn't there, but I can
Well,
move to
why don't you
accept
move
it?
that, yeah.
Yes, you can. I mean, this is just making a
it's just-
statement that we approve that it is part of our formal record.
Right. And I do know if the advisory committee also takes meeting minutes, and generally theirs are fairly detailed, so, as well, because they have someone whose specific job is to do that, so. Anyway, can I second Richard's motion?
Certainly.
All right,
All in favor to accept it?
thank you.
Thank you, 400. So it's entered into our record. Now we move on to Teaching and Learning Highlight Challenge Day.
So as Mrs. Myers-Pakla and our fabulous students and Mr. LaValle, our math teacher at the high school, come forward, just wanted to give a little bit of context here for Challenge Day that they'll be talking about. So as you're aware, last year we had a committee that was preventing and minimizing bias, discrimination, and we had a number of recommendations that came out of that committee that looked at curriculum, that looked at professional development, that looked at programs. So this is one example of something that has come from the work of that committee from last year. So you're going to be hearing about this particular program and how it is looking at diversity and celebrating the differences of others.
And also, really taking a look to break down barriers and to really show that we do have a lot in common. And sometimes there's that facade that we have that's kind of that 10 minutes out there, but who are we really? And how much do we really share in common? And that can be on the positive and that can be on the negative, but that none of us are alone. And also to really reach out and to look to see who is that individual that maybe needs that little bit of a tap on the shoulder, or just saying hello in the morning, or just being kinder on a daily basis. So a lot that goes into Challenge Day. Sarah, can you tab down on that, or tab up on it, whichever on the button? Nope, go over there to see the arrows, on the arrows. Arrows, on the right, honey. Go right, go right, go right.
Oh,
there
okay.
we go. Okay, let's see if we can, who's good at this, guys?
Oh, just clicking on the.
So there's a little video here. And let's see how we do, and then we want to go to full screen. This will be a review for all of us.
Every high school.
I'm
You
not
need
sure
to
why.
change the view. It's, see, does it say at the top, view settings? Do you have two screens on your screen?
Nope, we're only looking at one screen.
It's in full screen right now.
Oh,
Thank you. Yeah, I know. Somebody up here has got it.
Sorry. Not to put you on the spot or anything, Matthew.
Maybe like up here. I don't know how to get it to show up on there if it's not already showing up.
I think it used to be F10 in the olden days.
Unfortunately, sometimes you have to shut down the PowerPoint to have it pop up.
Nope, it's not that. Oh, yeah. Okay.
You can copy and paste that into the browser and open up the video.
Yeah, that's a good idea. That's why she's the superintendent. So we're going to minimize the PowerPoint. Yes, you do have two screens
Oh,
open.
there it is.
Yeah, it's
Oh, no,
because of
that's
this. It's this
okay.
presentation mode thing. That's what it is. You can never be in that mode. I'm going to fix that for you after we watch this video. Oh, it's not even going to go away because of that mode. Live TV, people. Display settings. That should fix it. Let's see. There we go.
I helped.
Nice work, Dr. Mello.
Once in a while.
Every high school has one thing in common. The student body is divided into cliques, but all that is about to change in one day. MTV presents a breakthrough experience.
We want to welcome everyone to what we call a challenge day.
Classmates brought together
It's about finding out who people really are, not just who we think they are.
to tear down the walls that separate them.
It was the most amazing feeling I've ever had in my life.
Love you, man.
Love you too.
Changed my life forever. Challenge Day is an award-winning social and emotional learning workshop that has been around for over 3 decades and has worked with over 1.5 million people all over the world. It's more than just an anti-bullying workshop. It's more than just bringing in a motivational speaker for an hour. Challenge Day is an experience, one that is designed to build community and to not only have an impact on each student's life, but also help shift the school culture to a more inclusive one. We don't just come in and talk for hours. We play games, we have fun, we dance, we run around, and then other times we slow things down and have some real conversations. But the concept is simple. Once a student's social and emotional needs are met, their grades go up and their overall life satisfaction improves. Our intention is to create a safe space for people to just be able to be themselves, to be able to express themselves without feeling judged. We're one of the longest running and most successful school programs in the entire world. And because of that, we've had our work supported by celebrities such as America's Got Talent winner Matt Franco,
Giving a shout out to Challenge Day.
Marianne Williamson, CNN's Lisa Ling, and Alanis Morissette. We were also featured on The Oprah Show, MTV, and dozens of other TV shows and media outlets.
I'm not kidding when I say this is how we change the world.
There's nothing more important for what we do here at schools and in every school across the United States than us making connections with and relationships with our kids.
What's your story? What's it really like to be you? Past the image, behind the mask, beneath your waterline. What feelings do you blow into your balloon every day that no one knows about? What's it really like to be you? Maybe if we really knew you, we would know that you live in a place called home, but some days it doesn't feel like home when you get there. Some days there's so much yelling, so much fighting, or worse, there's just silence. When you wake up in the morning and it's time to come to school, do you wake up with excitement or do you wake up with anxiety? A place where people may judge me before they get to know me. What's it really like to be you?
Any of you ever been called a bad kid? Any of you ever felt totally misunderstood by someone who called you a bad kid? There's actually no such thing as a bad kid. Every one of you in here was born absolutely perfect, like a little baby. Right, with that big smile and those bright eyes, but then as we get older, life starts happening to us, and as it does, we don't always know what to do, and when we don't know how to express our feelings in a healthy, positive way, sometimes we hurt ourselves and we hurt the people around us when we're all just holding up a big invisible sign that says, I don't know how to say this, but please help me. Society has evolved so much over the last few decades. Schools and teachers have known for a long time that there needs to be a major shift in our educational system in order to keep up with our changing world. We've seen Challenge Day go into every kind of setting you can imagine. Different demographics, different age groups, different parts of the world. And regardless of where we go, the outcome is the same. It simply works. Because at the end of the day, we're all just human beings who want to be fully seen, respected, and understood.
It'll change your life, you'll watch it change kids' lives, and it's just a really, really special, amazing experience. I've talked to people in the community who've said that their kids have talked about Challenge Day for a week straight. Couldn't stop talking about it. That's how much they loved it. That's how much of a difference it made. Real change and connection is possible. I highly recommend Challenge Day to any school who wants their students to get a deeper understanding of who they are.
Because that's what freedom is.
social and emotional learning is the future of education.
Go to the other one, the one with the one in the right corner there. Go click that. Now click the right. There you go. There you go.
Awesome. Now you want to hit an arrow, and I'm going to do this. So a big, really the big sign that was out there was "Be the change that you see in the world." It goes very much back to Gandhi, and that, you know, if you want to make a difference, it has to start with you, no matter how small or how large. And it can be that very, very simple movement that you make. Keep going, sir. I'm going to go through this quickly. I don't have a lot because I want the kids to really go onto this. But you've already seen this part of it. You've heard this part of it. This program did begin in 1987. It began actually by a husband-wife team, and it has really spread throughout the country. And probably one of the most significant things is that they really are looking to develop important leadership and social and emotional skills among our students. It's not going to all happen in one day, but it's going to be as this continues on. Go ahead, sir. Thank you, Annie. The idea behind it is that it is transformational, but it is a day of fun, it is a day of leadership, it is a day of empowerment that hopefully will really have our students thinking and looking at people in different ways and really looking at just the circumstances around them in different ways. And the goal is to help grow, as far as we're concerned, our own FHS community as caring, accepting, and appreciative of the diversity that makes us who we are. And it's also a day in which students really do gain courage and knowledge to help with things that they may see. I happen to think that we have a pretty good climate and culture here. Do we have room to grow? Absolutely. Are there issues? Absolutely. I'm not going to paint that, you know, that full Oz here. But I think we do have a positive one. But what else can we do? What aren't we seeing as adults that our kids are seeing that we can do to help us move forward? And we know that out there in the world, there's a lot of kids who are facing these things on a daily basis, and probably some of our own, right, within our own schools. So to recognize those things and to make a point of it and see what we can do to help improve. Go ahead, sir. And how did we do this? Again, through some games, through some trust-building activities, through presentations, and all of us were involved in this. We had approximately 25 teachers, and we were at, I think it was 68 students on the day that this took place. We had more students, but this happened to take place on the same day that there was a parade in Boston on a championship, and so we lost a few students to that particular event as well. So Sarah, go ahead. And part of this is, I'm going to fly through this, but they really do focus on empathy and understanding and having people learn what that means. Continue. Social and self-awareness. Again, what does that mean and how does that look for us? Continue, Sarah, if you would. Connectedness and belongingness, all parts of what the program is focusing on. And again, the goal is coming across from this, the idea that we want to be inclusive because that does foster an environment that is inclusive and acceptance school-wide. To help build this connection by building trust and openness in a connected school environment. And to bring about understanding of the core, really the core teachings that they do have, or that idea of there is forgiveness that's out there, there is self-awareness, there is empathy, and there is gratitude of just being really thankful for what you do have. I think that's the end of that. So what I'm going to do is I'm certainly going to allow, I want to have these students all introduce themselves, and Mr. LaValle is here as one of our faculty reps, and they can just share a little bit with all of you from that day and what they experienced. And let me just tell you that we did start out with clapping the students in. And do you remember what the very first activity was? Do you remember what they had? It didn't involve you all.
Oh, the teachers like high-fiving.
Oh, yeah, we all high-fived them, and then what did we have to do?
Yeah.
Yeah. They had us go in, and we were the ones that were dancing to the music, and the students were all around us. But it's that idea of starting with those kind of, everybody can do and engage, and then you continue to kind of drill it down and drill it down. So, yeah, we were out there doing a little bit of dancing first before the rest. So, but anyway, either end, who would like to start?
I'll start.
Okay.
So I'm Tanner Wigmore, and I was at Challenge Day, and I thought it was, like, overall really good. Like, it was fun, powerful, and it, like, gives you a perspective on, like, what you thought you knew about people through, like, social media, through pictures. Like, you'd think someone has a perfect life, and they share a lot of problems that a lot of other people have out there. Like, you really get to learn more about your students. You get to come closer with them. Like some people I didn't know going into, and I talked to them out of it because we were in like the same group together. But yeah, it was great. The two guys who held it were great. They were very like colorful characters, very loud. But yeah, I thought it was overall a great experience.
What year are you?
Sophomore.
When you tell us your name, could you also please tell us what year you are? Thank you.
I'm Ryan Petrillo. I'm a sophomore, and I thought it was also powerful learning about the kids you see every day but don't really know, knowing they have a bigger story behind them. And it was a really fun day getting out of your comfort zone and really talking to the people you don't really know and what they're going through.
I'm Sari Kafel, I'm a junior, and like I didn't really go into it with much of an expectation because I didn't really know what to expect, but like I was not expecting to get as emotional as I did, like because I don't usually open up to people, but it's just like they make it in a way that like it's so easy to like open up because they make everybody like really close and stuff, and
it feels safe, right?
Yeah,
that
exactly.
You can share.
And I don't know, it was like, I think powerful is the right word for it. Like, it was just really crazy. Like, I was telling my mom when I went home, like, how crazy, like, I really think it was life-changing. And, like, I just had to nap when I got home because it was, like, mentally exhausting, but, like, in a good way. But it was just really powerful. And even to see, like, your teachers and stuff, like, even a lot of them got emotional and, like, in a good way, though. Like, they felt like they could share with other people and, like, even open up with their students, which is, I feel like, hard for teachers too, because it's like students don't really view them as, I mean, for the most part, students don't really see that teacher is like a real person. Like, I know that's rude to say, but it's like you really saw everybody's like differences and struggles and pain and stuff. So,
yeah. I'm Jamie Notarangelo. I'm a junior, and yeah, like Sarah said, we all went in there like not knowing what to expect at all. So like, of course, we were like all generally skeptical and we're like, oh, why are we spending a whole day here? But the way they did it was really like great, because it took it from like these games that were like really awkward and gradually built it up to where we all felt comfortable sharing stuff that you wouldn't share with complete strangers, as most of these people were. And yeah, it was really eye-opening just seeing these people that you might have a perception of but not really know, and then just seeing like you have so much in common, like you're going through the same things, just you don't know it. And even people from widely different like groups who would never interact, you felt connected and you felt like you could share with them. And it was really eye-opening, and like pretty much like don't judge a book by its cover because you never know what they're going through. So yeah, it was a great experience.
I'm Dominic St. Pierre. I was sophomore. Overall, Challenge Day was an eye-opening experience, like she said. I love doing it. I would do it again, definitely in the future. I learned so much about people I thought were like my closest friends, and I've made friends with so many new people now. I feel close with my teachers. Like I got to know Mr. LaValle. I got to know a lot of my teachers and good friends of mine. It was good learning about like what people go through, and know that life is like, you know, not always gonna be perfect, and having this experience sort of like makes you go push through it and yeah, just show how life is, you know, good.
Ned LaValle, I'm not going to give you my year.
Why not?
But it was a great program, and what they've all said is exactly what happened. You saw students and teachers really interact, really kind of dig down, and starting with the silly games and with us dancing, not very well. But then games where people were awkward, and students and teachers didn't really want to do the games because it was a little uncomfortable. But you had to. You're there in a small group, and that's where it gradually just came to. people opening up a little bit more. The cross the line, I think you saw it there. I think that was probably the most powerful part for me, and seeing the look on the students' faces, like, you're going through that too? You went through that? And you really saw people going from their cliques, because they wanted to be with their friends when they first get in, didn't know what was going on, to, oh, let me talk to this person, let me go over to this person. At first it was forced. You have to go with someone that you don't know, you have to go here. And then you saw everyone, teachers and students, just going to people that they wouldn't normally talk to. And it was great, and I think it's a great culture builder for the school. If we can really get it going into this some sort of momentum, I think it'd be really, really useful.
Had you ever worked with a program before, or was this your first?
I knew nothing about it other than Ms. Myers-Packla says, oh, would you like to do this? And I looked at the video. So I don't like to go in things completely blind. But it didn't tell you that much. And I think that was their goal, even at the beginning. They said, have you ever seen this before? Do you know anything about it? And almost nobody knew anything about it. And I think that helps. If you go in with too much knowledge, I think it allows you to close off a little bit more than coming in and say, okay, what are we doing today?
Yes, but you already know it. Now,
Well,
does that mean you can't do it next year?
Oh, no, I would do it again, like Don said. I think going in and just being able to open up, knowing a little bit more is fun. It seems like they do change it. Talking to the two gentlemen that ran it, they said, yeah, every time's a little bit different. You never know what we're going to throw at you. But some of the activities are going to be the same, like the cross the line is the big thing. And, you know, that I think really got the connections with people.
What was the symbol? Sign language, I love you, but also meaning I support you. So you saw in the video where people were doing this, and that was used throughout the day at various times. Just, yeah, I support what you're going through. I might not have experienced something, but I support it. And it wasn't always all personal, but it would be that question of, you know, for instance, have you ever been impacted by, or do you know somebody who has, or has your family? And I think that those were really eye-openers for so many of us. And in some ways, as the students were all saying, you made that connection. You made that, like, ah, geez, I didn't realize you too, you know. And it could be just something as simple as, you know, I get stressed out before I take a test, kind of thing. You know, how many of you? And that crossing the line as you do walk over. So that's that idea that you step over to say, yes, I am a person who, that has impacted me in some way. So we had a lot of this that was going on. There was sharing out as well that wound up occurring. What was the letter that you wrote? Do you remember what was the theme on that?
I was somebody that, like, you loved or admired or missed or something. You didn't have to give it to them. It was just, you kind of wrote it for yourself. And it's like, I don't know. Like, I wrote about my aunt who passed away. Not that I would give it to her, but it was just like...
Yeah, it was a way to, like, get out your feelings that, like, you were holding in, and even if you weren't gonna, like, share it, it was just, like, out. It was somewhere just you could have.
And what was the balloon? Remember the symbolism of the balloon in the air and the balloon? Do you want to explain that when they talked about that a little bit in the video?
Yeah, they said, like, every time you have, like, a bad feeling inside of you, it's like another breath in your balloon, and then it eventually, like, expands, and sometimes it can just pop, and you take your anger out in ways that it's not just that little thing, it's just that one thing that popped the balloon, but it was holding so much more inside of it. So they were talking about other ways to, like, not let it expand that much, to let it out, like, instead of all at once, basically.
And they did sum the day, so the students could come up to talk about what were their takeaways and what were those next steps that they wanted to do. So they don't know yet, some do. But this Thursday, we're actually reconvening the group of students who participated. And Kelly Arcacha, who's our department head in art, has taken it upon herself to be the advisor to help with how do we move Challenge Day forward? How do we move, you know, be the one forward? And what are those things that we want to do? And in sharing out, students did say things as simple as, I'm going to hold the door for somebody. You know, I'm going to think about holding the door. I'm going to say hello and make sure that I do say hello to somebody every day in school. So some things that were very simple that way to larger things that, that people had in mind as well. So we are going to continue on with it with these students, but we want to take the direction from them because that's really where it should come from. And then expand again this next year. That is what we would like to do. That's what my vision is that we continue to roll this so that all students by the time they graduate would have an opportunity to participate in a challenge day. So that's kind of
Would
how
you
we
hold
would-
it about the same time each year?
What we would like to do, what helps out, because there's a cost factor to it, is that if you can share with other schools. So Ashland and I had been in conversation, and we were all set to go in October. And when we went in to take a look at the calendar was wide open for the challenge day. And then we went back in a week later when we had set some times, and the next thing we knew, the whole thing was filled in. And we'd been on the phone with them. So it's just a matter of the timing of it. So this turned out to be the best timing that we could think of, just after midterms, just before February break. Ideally, we'd like to go more toward the beginning of the year so that this really becomes kind of the theme moving us forward throughout the year with it. So that's our hope and our plan. So there were 3 of us in Massachusetts. It was Ashland, ourselves, and Dedham, who were the 3 high schools that were participating. In that particular week, it just worked out nicely that way for us all. So.
Did you have students from all grade levels participate? Or?
We did 9 through 11, because again, where's, I would say, our biggest bang for our buck. Our 12th graders, I'm sorry, but they're 1 foot out the door. So we'd like to be able to roll this for the kids for next year. And you all are heading to credit fair tomorrow, right? So just a few things that we're coming up to with seniors, so that's why we went with the 9th, 10th, and 11th.
And how were the students selected?
Random selection through guidance.
Yeah.
They just did a random run. I believe they may have even just gone right off of the alpha listing and just keyed it in, and that's what we came up with.
And if they've already done it, someone else will get an opportunity now?
Yes, what winds up
assuming
happening,
they're not
yes, what winds up happening is in the second year, they do suggest that you have kids that have gone through the program be student facilitators. So I don't know what those numbers will be, and we need to take a look at that as well. And that does up your number. There's a maximum of 100 that they like to work with at a time, and it makes sense because of how we do break down into groups, and you don't want to lose that. You get too large and you kind of lose that sense of identity when you're working with the numbers. But they up the numbers when you have the student facilitators helping out with it and working with it too.
I have questions for the students. Was it eye-opening knowing that you're not alone in your feelings and surprising the other people that had the same feelings that you, because they're not necessarily your friends? And what have you done since the challenge? Have you become friends with any of these people that were surprising new friends to you, or had something in common with you, or have you reached out in different ways because of it?
Yeah, definitely. We split up into these small little groups for the majority of the time when we were sharing our feelings and stuff, and when you were really realizing the stuff people are actually going through. And those little groups got really close during the day. So if I see any of the students or the teachers that I see in the hallway, I'll just give them a nice hello and stuff. And it also inspired me to not only people I don't know, but my close friends, me realizing I might not know what they're actually going through because we won't have those deep conversations like we did on Challenge Day.
Dom, you were nodding.
I was going to say, Dom was going to say something over here.
I definitely made a lot of friends. There is kids that I know, I'm acquaintance with, with music programs and other fields in the school, and I've since talked to them every day now. I remember he encouraged us to hug every day, 12 hugs a day.
That's nice. I'm a hugger, so I have no problem with that. That's awesome.
Yeah.
And you feel comfortable with it?
Definitely.
Excellent.
I don't think it's just about making friends. I did make friends from it, but it's also just even the people that you saw cross the line that you were on completely the other side, you just see them, and now when I see them in the hallway, we make a point to smile at each other because we know. And I think it's a great idea if everybody can experience it before they graduate, because just those 68 people that were there that day, it's just I feel I'm a little bit more connected to all of them, and I feel everybody should have that chance.
You learned empathy because you're looking at the people on the other side of the line, knowing what they're going through, even if you aren't. That's really nice.
Yeah.
Well, and you never know, if you smile at somebody, they may smile at somebody else during the course of the day, and it's a ripple effect that is just tremendous. I think this program combined with the Link Crew and the web program, just, I mean, those kids coming up from the middle school will also have that sort of connection and leadership ability. And then I'm hoping that some of these sophomores might decide they want to be Link Crew leaders next year, because they've got all these tools in their toolbox now to bring forward, you know, the skills. Well, it's juniors and seniors that are Link Crew leaders, so you girls too. You know, it would just be great. It would be a great opportunity to bring forward some of the lessons that they've learned. And I know that there's an overlap between what they're taught in their Link Crew training and on Challenge Day. If I might make a suggestion, though, I did have a parent who, you know, just emailed me and was curious what Challenge Day was on Challenge Day, because her son wasn't involved in it and was like, well, half my classes were empty because of the parade and Challenge Day. It might be beneficial. I mean, this is a great program. It would have been nice, I think, for the parent community to understand a little bit more about what was going on. And also, I mean, we can learn from our students. We learn, and not can learn, we do learn from you guys so much. And sometimes if you don't know the right questions to ask, you miss an opportunity to have a great conversation with your student or with a friend. And it's just a suggestion, but
thank you.
I think it would be a great opportunity to learn more in advance.
Did you want to talk, Ryan? Were you going to say
The
something?
two of you guys.
Yeah.
He was looking like he was
It's
gonna
just
say
as simple as saying like hi to someone every day, just letting them know that they're there and you'll be there for them. Like I don't usually hang out with a bunch of them, just as simple as saying hi and letting them know that they're noticed and stuff.
And you wouldn't have before.
No.
Right.
It's not like I don't really know where to put my finger, but like I felt like I grew closer to people that I'm already like talking to, like that I found out more about them throughout the whole day, and I feel like I have more to relate to them now. It's more like about knowing more about people during learning more about people during the whole day than meeting different people. I think, yeah. I think it's about learning about other people's problems more than anything.
And that whole, I think you were right on with it, about that whole idea that we sometimes forget that there's something else that's going on. And I think too for staff, you know, because so often you may not understand why somebody is reacting or acting in a particular way in a classroom, and who knows what they just came into school from.
Correct.
Whether it's on a positive or on a negative, and sometimes your happiest kid in class can have a whole history too behind them of goodness knows what, you know, or just their own internal pressures that they put on themselves. So I do know that, just to share out, I've had some parents of some of the students who participated who emailed just to say, you know, thank you so much that they really felt, and to use that quote, that it was life-changing. So I was happy to, you know, we're always pleased when we get that kind of a comment back and from staff members, and just saying thank you so much for, you know, having me participate in the day. And from one in particular who was just at my door that next day going like, oh my God, this was the best thing that we just, that could have happened. We needed this, you know, I needed this. So all of those things are really on a plus side. So anything we can do to enhance it, thank you so much, Tina. We'll certainly work to do that as well.
It sounds like it was worth every penny.
I think so. I just want to thank you for your leadership with this, but also thank the faculty too,
Yeah.
because
Absolutely.
when the faculty gets in that mix and starts to share their own personal things too, that's a great step for the faculty in the building as well too.
And that's vulnerability too.
And then
everybody.
I think the final thing, I just want to thank you guys, but I always enjoy these moments personally, because I think sometimes the testimony from what it does for you is far more important than all the tests that we do.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
so I think that's really something powerful, because that makes a difference in our school. So thanks for being here and being part of that. Well done.
I'd just like to say that, you know, we know that relationships are the #1 indicator of success and school culture, and that's what leads to academic success as well. So when you think about 2 years ago, when we had the committee on our social emotional learning, and we're in our second year of our action plan from the recommendations from that, I think this is a great example of what comes from that and our continual focus on not doing something and it being in the past. It's how we continue to weave it together and connect it to what we're doing so it makes sense, but again, it has the same focus as we're moving forward.
So thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you
Thank
guys
you. Thank you.
so much.
Thanks for having us
This
tonight.
was greatly appreciated.
And just to let you know, Hawkins did win tonight, so they're moving on.
Oh, great.
So, I had a lot of students who were involved with a bunch. Yes, if you would, thank you. Congratulations.
Excellent.
That was great.
Thank you.
Now we move on to the superintendent's mid-cycle review.
Right, so typically at this time of year, it's a check-in on the goals that I've set for the year to see where I am with those goals. But what we had also discussed in the past several years that you had with Debbie, and then I did as well last year for the first time, was to focus on 3 different questions. And those questions at this point are, what am I really proud of? What am I working really hard on? And then again, what challenges do I face? So I wanted to start with those 3 questions first. And as far as what I'm really proud of, we just had such a great example there. And it really is that ongoing curiosity at how we can continue to do what's best for our students and make a stronger culture and look at our equity in schools. So from an equity standpoint, that is something that we've been doing a lot of focus on. We know that Massachusetts is #1 in the nation as far as the most rigorous standards, the most rigorous assessment system. But we also have been doing a lot of work at the state level looking at the achievement gaps as far as looking at different groups of students and characteristics of students that are before us. And so that's something that we're tackling here in Foxborough as well. Looking at our ethnicity, looking at our groups of students that might be our L students, looking at students that, that might be socioeconomically disadvantaged, all of these different groups, and really drilling down and asking a lot of questions. Simon Sinek is, he's a leading researcher, author, and he always talks about the question of why and asking why and digging deeper, because many times what your first thought is not even the, it's not anywhere close to what you're even trying to solve, quite honestly. And it's more about, by the time you get to the 5th question of why, then you're really starting to find some of the problems that you're trying to solve, and then what are some action steps that you can take going forward. So you have on your packet here just a definition that's coming out of research that I wanted to just read here when we look at educational equity and what that means, and it all means all. So it's students receive the resources, educational opportunities needed to learn and thrive. Equity means that a student's success is not predicted nor predetermined by characteristics such as race, ethnicity, religion, family, economics, class, geography, disability, language, gender, sexual orientation, gender identity, and initial proficiency. It also involves disrupting inequitable practices, acknowledging our biases, employing practice that reflect the reality that all students will learn, and creating inclusive, multicultural environments for adults and children. So it's really getting away from that idea of, well, students will learn if they have this. It's all students mean all. And digging into whether it's MCAS data, whether it's our own baseline and benchmarks, some of the perception data that we capture, and looking through a new lens. And it's tackling some tough questions as a group, and then what are we going to do about it? So that's something I'm really proud of, that we've been doing as an administrative team, then going back with teachers. Allison's been going back and doing some work even with our special educators and looking at, well, what does this mean when it's inclusion in the classroom and push in, and what does that look like, and asking a lot of different questions. So that's something that we're really excited about. It's definitely viewing through a different lens. The other piece to this is the professional development when we're talking about asking some questions that might be questions that we don't necessarily have the answers to. When we think about being in a classroom and students bring up questions in an environment to where it might be an uncomfortable conversation. So again, coming out of that bias and discrimination committee last year, being able to tackle some of those conversations and having tools in your toolbox, if something's brought up by a student, being able to mark the moment at that time and to have that conversation. So the cultural proficiency professional development that took place in August and that took place in January, that really is working with us as educators to be able to have conversations in classrooms of addressing topics that might be uncomfortable or that are out in the environment or in our culture as far as across the country that come up because of politics that's taking place. But again, if someone comes up with a particular comment, being able to address that in a way that we feel as though we've marked that moment and every student is heard. What am I working hard on? That would be my entry plan as far as being a participant in the Massachusetts new superintendent induction program. As I mentioned before, there's 41 of us that are in that program. 3 of us started midway through last year, but even though we started midway, we started the entry plan work at the beginning of this current school year. In addition to the entry plan, we have 8 full content days that we participate in, one monthly during the school year. So far I've met with 28 different groups in part of my data collection and the data that I can hear. So it's amount of what data I can hear, count, or see. The hear is meeting with stakeholders from all different groups to get perceptions on the same 5 questions. And those questions are, what do you value about Foxborough? What do we do really well as far as Foxborough Public Schools? Where can we do better? What are their expectations of the superintendent? And then what else comes to mind that would be important to know? So that here data is being synthesized and it will help develop trends or patterns to see what themes emerge from that. A full document review of all kinds of information that we have within the district, whether it's quantitative or qualitative data. And then what I can see are observations, working with principals going through classrooms, and then other events that take place within the district. So all of that information is being compiled to present to you in the very near future on my entry plan findings. Those findings will then generate our strategy going forward. So although it's a lot of work during this school year, it's still kind of just the beginning because it's taking all that information and saying, okay, what are we going to do with this? What's our strategy going forward? It's different than our strategic plan, and the strategic plan is set for 3 years and it doesn't really change. This will have some ebb and flow to it, but it will complement the strategic plan. So that's what I've been working really hard on. I still have a few more groups to meet with, and it has been a wonderful experience, very satisfying. And I will tell you, meeting with students from every single level has been awesome. It's
That's
awesome.
gonna be really cool.
One of my favorite quotes from one of the 4th graders when it was the question of what is your expectation of the superintendent? It was, well, they need to be smart. Okay, well, can I make mistakes? And I had about 12 or 14 students around the table, and they had an arousing yes, because that's when your brain grows.
That's right.
Good
So
answer.
that's a growth
good answer.
mindset that is really fully alive
Awesome.
in our schools.
Good job with that.
My brain grows constantly.
That's right, our brain grows.
That's
So
awesome.
that has,
really
it's just
cool.
been, and the kids,
That's the culture right there.
kids, you're still kids, even though you're getting ready to graduate soon, are so insightful. And you'll hear about the entry findings when I come, but the consistency as far as what people value and what we do really well has been really exciting. So I'm really looking forward to presenting my findings to you. And then what challenges do I face? They're really the same same challenges that we all face in public education, which is really meeting the social, emotional, mental health needs of our students, and in ways that we know that we're making a difference. And I think tonight's teaching and learning highlight was one example. As Tina, you mentioned before, Web and Link Crew, those are others. Implementing things like with our Sam Burns curriculum here at the high school. There's so many things that we're doing, but again, there's still so many challenges that we face in the classroom, and you can have teachers that are experienced and have been teaching for 20 plus years and have such a plethora of tools in their toolbox. But again, in order to meet all of the learning profiles of our students that come before us, making sure that we support them so they can meet the needs of our students in our classroom, because the needs are so varied.
The last meeting we had, the IMI Go Teaching and Learning Highlight, and I think that's a phenomenal example of an excellent administrator, you know, Mr. Stanton, making a change that, you know, it occurred to him, and he had an aha moment, and he made a really great change, and that was a phenomenal example, I think, of I'm not articulating it well, but it's another example, and I know Dr. Rogers and Mrs. McCarthy are doing similar things at their elementary schools as we are at the Ahern, you know, with different programs. I actually saw on Facebook a bulletin board up at the Ahern, and I don't know who
That
put
was
it
awesome.
up, but
Yeah, it's a great bulletin
that
board.
you know the one I'm talking about.
It's all
Can
feel good.
you remember the
It has
words?
all these,
It's
like,
all about
you
kindness
are-
and
yeah,
be
and
kind.
all the things that you can do.
It was fantastic.
kind.
Be the nice kid.
Yes,
and,
exactly.
And I just said, oh, I don't know who put that up. If it was
It's up in
student
2
council,
locations, too,
but
at the Ahern.
I loved that. I hope it is up on the Ahern Schools
Website?
website.
don't know that, but it could
because
go
if
up.
it isn't, it should be,
Yes.
because I know I happened to see it, and I just think that's great. I also would love to see the YouTube clip from Challenge Day go up
Oh, that'd be
on the
fabulous.
Foxborough Public Schools website, if not the whole PowerPoint presentation, because again, people who want to find out a little bit more about Challenge Day. Sorry, I'm digressing a little bit, but
I think
these
it all
are all
connects.
just
It all
good
connects.
examples. And it is, I think this is a huge challenge, and it's a constantly moving target, but I think our school system is kind of moving with it, so I think that's good, fairly good.
We actually, I don't know if it was last year, the kids had notes on our lockers when we were coming through here.
Yeah, that was a good
Like,
thing,
which all,
too.
which all feel-good things, which is really kind. I don't know if that was student council, who it was, but they all
I think
had
that
it.
was student council.
Yeah.
And those are good examples of, you gotta change it up too. It can't be the same thing, just
can't.
as it can't be
No,
the
ignore
same
it.
in all
Right. It can't be mundane.
schools, and but we learn from each other too, of what's working, and then you might have a spin-off
Right.
of something.
They'll be ignored if you keep them doing the same thing, redundancy, so you have to change it up.
Yeah.
Was it you, Kendall, who put them up? See you laughing.
Group effort.
No, I remember, I was walking down
See,
the
people notice.
hall smiling. I go, this is really nice to
I
open your
used to
locker
stop and
say
read
that.
them.
Yeah, it was pretty cool.
In the back shelf of student council stuff
We still have a bunch of the extra printouts that we did.
I think you should it's time to stick them back up again.
Yeah, we got plenty of leftovers.
Go for it. There you go.
Can't hurt anything.
There you go.
Spring's coming. It'll cheer people on.
Yes.
But then there's the budgetary considerations that come along with this as well. So when we think about, even with our budget, with the 0.5 team chair at the middle school, to elevate that to a 1.0, to be able to have oversight of our special education program, there are other implications that come along with that as well. Any questions on those 3 questions as far as?
No, I want to thank Bruce. Those were his questions to Debbie and Bruce Gardner years ago, and it is such a great way to frame this discussion. And actually, it's really good advice. Those are 3 questions we should all probably reflect on, you know, periodically
all
in
of
our
us.
own personal life. But it
Absolutely. I think
really
they're
is a great way to present this mid-cycle review, and I appreciate that. And I don't know if Bruce is watching, but I will thank him again for those 3 questions.
But it does take a lot of reflection
It does.
in what you're going to.
They're not easy questions
When you
to
think
answer.
about what is it that you're really proud of, there's so much, but to really kind of capture
Call it
the
down.
essence of what we're doing right now, and again, so much to be proud of.
It's something that's very important. I appreciate your discussion about equity.
Yes.
For you to highlight that and for you to bring it to the top of the heap is a really important statement for the district. And people need to realize that if we're putting it out, starting this right on.
Yeah, I agree, Richard, and, you know, it's the leadership that is allowing our administrators to pursue these awesome programs at the various school buildings, so it's fantastic.
And then as far as the 5 goals that you're familiar with from the beginning of the school year, my professional practice goal, which is this entry plan as part of being in the new superintendent's induction program, so we kind of covered that. My student learning goal is my superintendent student advisory council, which began in October. We meet monthly. There's 12 students. I have 2 seniors, 2 juniors, 5 sophomores, and 3 freshmen. And we meet here at the high school during Sea Lunch. And they're such a great group. And again, just insightful. Some of the topics that we've talked about, just even our parent presentation that we had on vaping recently, that was a conversation that we talked about with students and the prevalence of it and the education and what we're talking about and health classes and just their perception of what takes place. Looking at computer science pathways. Allison came to that meeting and we really talked about their experience at the middle school and how can we strengthen those pathways at the high school. And so that's some exciting information that we have from them, but what you're already working on. College planning, just having freshmen in the group to hear from our seniors that are waiting on college acceptances, and then hearing from some of the other students, well, when can we go talk to Mr. O'Neill? And just hearing, like, well, you can do that now. Well, what is VHS? Some of the things that they might not be aware of and connecting them. So we've had some great conversations, and then it's whatever they want to talk about as well. So that's, I love those monthly meetings with them.
Has anything surprised you, topic-wise, that they've
One of
brought
the things that surprised me was the later start time for school. So we've talked about that here, and that's something that I know that we'll continue to have a conversation about, but I asked them, I said, you know, some people are talking about the research behind sleep and having a later school start time. What are your thoughts on that? They were very quick to say no.
I've heard that from a lot of students.
They did not want to have a later start time. So I then probed and asked some questions, and it was a matter of, because once we're up, we're up. We like the time that we get out.
Right.
Whether it's because of going to sports or going to a job or just being out earlier in the afternoon. They do really like what we have done with the homework free for breaks during the school year, when we had that with the Thanksgiving and then like recently last week. Coming in later for midterms. That was something that was...
Little tweaks.
Yes, but so that's something that surprised me. I thought that at first that they would be like, yes, let us come in later. And they, every one of them around the table, nope. So I thought that was really interesting.
It was eye-opening.
It's good information to have.
Yes,
How
it
did you
is.
get these students?
I went to a student council meeting, and there were, what are they, like 60 or 70 in student council?
Yeah, you can probably you picked a good one to come to. That was the most people we ever had.
Okay, it was a ton.
It was back in September, I think.
Yes,
That was a while ago. I
yes,
remember that.
September.
Oh, the first one.
Yeah.
The first couple of meetings.
Right.
yes.
Oh, yeah, that might have something to do with it.
So I explained to all of the students who were there what I wanted to do, why I wanted to have this advisory council, and then wanted to see who might be interested. And said either go to the advisors or email me, so both. I had some go to the advisors, some email me directly. And I ended up taking everyone that came forward.
Perfect.
So
That's great.
great.
You did a nice mix.
The district improvement goal is a continued goal from last year on the OECD test for schools. That, we talked about it earlier in the fall when we went over the results, participating in the Global Learning Network. And we've continued to really work with the rubrics, with math, reading, and science. And I thought it might be helpful just to kind of give an example. So when we were talking back in the fall about if you scored at a level 5 or 6, that meant you were globally ready. So as an example in reading, if you were to look at that rubric, teachers are kind of dissecting that and talking about, well, that means that you're highly skilled, you're capable of dealing with many different types of text, so you're a diversified reader. You can assimilate information from unfamiliar content that's presented in atypical formats. You can overcome preconceptions in the face of new information. So what does that look like for us? Well, it looks at, well, what text are our students reading? And we want to provide more varied text. So it's not just the historical text or some of the major ones that we've had, but some of the more modern texts that we're introducing into the curriculum that are more interesting and more engaging, but at the same time, we're still keeping our major pieces, but it's putting some other pieces of literature in there that are more modern text. So then dissecting and assimilating all that information and how that falls within that rubric. So that is a lot of work that we're continuing with. And as part of this year's work, we've really developed like a theory of action and what that looks like within our curriculum. And then the last goal was to successfully conduct and conclude contract negotiations with professional educators, educational assistants, and others by September 1st of 2019. Resulting in a new collective bargaining agreement for those groups. So today, we've successfully concluded with maintenance and custodial, with extended day. We have just begun, as you know, as you're our two representatives for our professional educators. Bill and I have set dates. We start tomorrow, actually, with the bus drivers for negotiations, and then educational assistants will follow. So that is where I am with the goals. So I would say that significant progress for all of those, and expect to meet all of those goals by the end of the school year.
Excellent.
Questions? Okay.
Very fine. Right, 2019 community report.
So just,
Allison, want to go?
well, I think we'll toss it over to Allison, because she had the lovely experience of working with my document from the past, and tables and charts, and so that was an interesting experience, wasn't it?
I learned a lot. It was great. It was an opportunity to learn.
Yes. But, so this is the community report that you're very well aware of, because we've had this for the last 7 years. But what I will say before Allison talks more specifically about the report itself, that I think that it's been great to have someone else. I mean, I joke as far as the tables and charts, but to really have someone dig into this. And some of the things that she brought up, I think, are really important on the section of, did you know it was more secondary heavy? And what are some things that, you know, at the high school, as an example, what are some things that we need to highlight that are happening more at the lower levels? So having a new lens to view this has been really, really helpful. But Allison, I will turn it over to you.
Great. So as Amy mentioned, this was an interesting experience for me. I found this as sort of the combination of a lot of the data that we present in our baselines and benchmarks report, coupled with some narrative information that maybe comes out after the baseline and benchmark report, and things that we want to highlight so that people know what's going on in our schools. So on the first page, you know, at the front cover, our school administration, our school committee, I thank you. My glasses are in the car. And you know, the information about our vision and our mission and our values, which we work on them each year on our retreat, and those have been the same. On the inside page, the district overview reviews our current district-wide enrollment of 2,585 students and the breakdown at each of our schools. I don't know how much detail. Do you usually go over in detail all of that information?
Not all of it. I think maybe some of the things that are new to the group.
So one of the things is looking at the Ahern Middle School. When I first came to the Ahern Middle School, the enrollment was much higher, but it's now at 842. We look at our out-of-district placement. We have 31 students in out-of-district programs. When we look at our students for who are eligible for free and reduced lunch, we notice that those numbers have increased in Foxborough as our demographics have continued to change. And our special education population, we looked at that during the baseline and benchmarks report, but it's reported out district-wide and by each individual school. And that one actually excludes the preschool, because you know how our preschool works.
And that has increased also,
That
correct?
has also increased, yes.
Looking at the charts on the right, we can see that we maintain pretty consistent achievement on our MCAS scores at the high school. Looking at our ELA, math, and science over the last 3 years, Foxborough is the heavy line and the state is the striped line. You can see, bless you, that we've maintained really steady sort of performance over time, with 95% proficient and advanced in ELA, 91 in math, and 89 in science. You can see sort of our trend line is very similar to the state when we move down to our per pupil expenditures. And one thing I think that's important to note for our school in particular is our per pupil expenditures really reflect the fact that we don't charge any fees for any athletics or transportation or parking passes or any of that. That's all encompassed in our per pupil expenditure. Feel free to jump in, by the way, anytime if there's anything that you or Bill would like to add. On the bottom, we have the results of our K-12 Culture Climate Survey. You're very familiar with that. We do that every year. We had our record-breaking parent participation last year. We reported to you in the fall. And you can see that it's been very consistent in terms of people's perception of the excellent or good in terms of the quality of education in Foxborough. Any questions on that page? Okay, flipping over. We always like to look at our class of 2018. It seems like just yesterday we were sitting at graduation with them. We had 90% of our students pursuing higher education, and we remember the esteemed universities that many of them went to. 2% in specialized programs, 4% went on to the military, and 4% entered the workforce. As we reported in the fall, we continue to have really strong showing on our SATs. 84% of the class last year took the SAT exam, and the mean scores in evidence-based reading and writing was 560, and math was 574. As you know, we have a really dynamic complement, and I'm sure that you two can attest to the complement of AP courses that we offer at Foxborough High School. There's actually too many to review. I will say that we added the AP Calc BC and the AP Seminar and Research, and part 2 of that research is happening this year. Is that correct? Did I say that correctly? It's coming. Coming. And then we also have, for the niche courses, we have virtual high school as an opportunity, which I also know you are familiar with. Last year, we had 204 students take the AP courses, and 432 exams were administered. So that means we have students taking multiple AP courses, and 80% of the tests scored 3 or better, which is really impressive with having so many people.
Very impressive.
Yeah, it's exciting.
Very impressive.
As Amy just mentioned, we had our second consecutive year of the OECD test for high schools. And for those people at home who don't know what that is, it's the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development out of Paris, France, parallel with the, not parallel, but related to the PISA testing. And as we reported in the fall, and we really wanted to share this with the community because we know that not everyone sits home and watches the school committee meeting, as riveting as we know it is. We wanted to highlight that our scores were comparable to the top nations in the world, including Singapore, Hong Kong, China, and Japan. So we listed our mean performance in reading of 526, which compared to the US of 497 was significantly higher, and only 1 point off of China and Canada. And in math was 547, with the US was 470, only 1 point off of China and slightly below Singapore. And then in science, we were 531, with the mean score in the US 496. Again, very close with Japan and Singapore, and we know that those countries have traditionally been extremely high performing. As Amy noted, in the What's New section, I had noticed that it was a lot of high school stuff, so my question was more of a benign question of, is that supposed to be geared more towards high school? So I tried to provide a little bit more of an overview of elementary, middle, and high school and some of the new things that are happening. So as you all know, I've been watching it happen even with this winter that we've had. Our high school is close to finalizing the outdoor athletic complex. Thank you, Rich, for giving me that language to add, because that's what it is, a full outdoor athletic complex. So the bleachers and the press box are now fully installed, which complement our turf field, which is now surrounded by an 8-lane track, which is set to be completed by late spring. And the concession stand will hopefully be ready for the fall sports in September of 2019. As you, the committee, knows from Teaching and Learning Highlight, the 7th grade students at the Ahern have been participating in the Grade 7 Experience, which is a community project that gets them involved with trying on some roles and responsibilities in the town, a little bit of civic engagement and giving back, and really giving them that experiential learning. Especially since they don't have Exchange City anymore, they're able to get it through that opportunity. As you'll hear again tonight, the Maybelle Borough School is in the final planning stages of a major renovation. Get the students ready and the teachers for the future. So groundbreaking is set for October or November of 2019, and the entire project is scheduled to be completed for the opening of school in 2021. And as I already mentioned, the AP seminar and research continues to move along, and we now will have the opportunity to have the AP capstone diploma from the College Board, which is a very special thing for our students. And the did you know, I would hope that most people do know that our average class sizes are on the smaller side. We have 18 to 20 students at elementary and 20 to 24 at the secondary. We believe that's really important, and we've appreciated the support of the community to maintain that. As I said earlier, we charge no fees for athletics, transportation, parking, or clubs and activities. That is really unusual in this day and age, speaking as a parent who had kids at another high school. We paid for everything. We also have a huge variety of clubs and activities for kids also at the middle school level, which continues to grow. What else is new on here? We have this year for the Scholastic Art and Writing Awards, 25 Scholastic Art Awards were awarded and 2 Writing Awards from the Boston Globe competition. And as we know, our DECA program continues to just gain unbelievable momentum, competing now at the international level. It has just exploded, and they have been so awesome. I'm so proud and happy for them. And I'd like to add, we have, as we know, we're accepting donations and partnering with people all the time. We have tremendous community partners here in Foxborough. We've been the beneficiary of so many generous gifts and so many, not just of financial support, but people giving sort of their time and their talent to our students as well, coming into the schools. So it just is probably nice to take this moment to thank all of the PTOs, the PAC volunteers, the boosters for athletics, music, arts. Meditech is a new partner to us. They're really helping us with some of the computer science that we're starting to delve into. Schneider Electric, the craft organization with the PIP program, the Hawk Y, Foxborough Cable Access, Stop and Shop, and many more that wouldn't fit on this little piece of paper. And then the back of the report just shares some of the recent college acceptances. So I see Dartmouth on there. What else? Where are you going?
Still waiting to hear back from the Naval Academy.
Okay.
But I got into
Ooh.
Penn State the other day.
Congratulations. That's fantastic. Is that on here?
Yep.
Nope.
It is.
It is.
Yeah, it is.
Phew, it's in there. Good. Doing it because it fits perfectly symmetrically, and you know mathematically, I really, I like that. So that's great. So any thoughts, questions, feedback?
I only have one thing, and I don't even know if it would fit, but we did have a state championship basketball team last year.
Right.
And
You're
that
right.
might be one of the things
Yes.
we could, I don't know. You know, all of our teams are doing very well this year as well, but that's pretty special.
That's a state championship,
Yes.
so.
Yeah. That was big news.
And I still get the biggest kick out of thinking about how the assistant coach this year for this winter was on the team that won.
That's very
the
special.
other. I mean, that
Jamie Kelly.
Yes.
Jamie.
Yes. Yeah, it is very special. I don't know if it's necessary, but if you could fit in.
I can fit.
one
I
more
can work
line.
wonders with this spacing in between. I've got a lot of experience now. I'll figure it out. Yeah,
That was
get it
my
in
only-
there.
And then I.
No, thank you for that. That's the point of sharing in this forum, is so we can make any adjustments before we send it out. Anything else that anybody noticed?
Just
The Merrimack is spelled incorrectly, so we'll fix
The
that.
one other thing.
Yep, we'll fix that. Mhm.
And I do like Rich's change to outdoor athletic complex. I agree.
That's exactly what it is.
Exactly what it is. so.
And maybe you'll have 3 more colleges to add, so it will still be symmetrical.
Okay, thank you for saying that, Debbie. Yes, we can do that. That would be okay. I can support that, yeah.
Seeing as you work wonders with space.
That's good.
No, I think this is great. I know our real estate agents use this,
Yes.
hand
Oh,
this
yes.
out.
Yes.
In addition to sending it out to, citizens in town, I know our local real estate agents give this to prospective homeowners or home buyers. And
Right.
it provides, I know if I were looking for a home in town, this would be exactly the kind of information I would want to have. So I know it's a tremendous amount of work.
Yeah,
for
that was a huge pull for my family moving here.
Yeah.
Coming from Boston public schools was a bit of a difference. So
Right.
as soon as they saw that, they were like, "Yeah, we're going there." And
How
stuff.
long have you been here now?
Oh, long time. Like 8 or 9 years now. So.
Yeah.
But I
Settled
agree.
in since then.
That I skipped over some points, like that we have the free universal kindergarten, and then we own our own buses, and we
Right.
have great extended day programs at a
Well,
really
very
reasonable
reasonable.
rate. But those are things that are here every year. But you're right, prospective people moving into the town, those are things that would be
Well, and
important to
it's
them.
this is all information that's out there, but
Right.
this is a nice condensed everything really you need to know.
That's right, it
A cheat
is.
sheet.
Cheat
Cliff
sheet.
notes.
Cheat sheet.
Well, I know when we moved here 18 years ago, and my husband, I think, went to the Department of Ed website to look at MCAS scores and to try to find information out. I mean, this was a long time ago,
Wow.
but this makes it so much easier for
A
people
lot of
who are
little things
interested.
too, like not having to pay for parking or sports. Like we complain every year when we have to do fundraisers, but that's like when you look at it, like the kids who go to KP or other schools. they
It
have
makes
to
a
go out
difference.
Having to pay hundreds of dollars out of pocket
Yeah.
to do that.
Yes.
That's something that we get to do for free.
Even parking.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. It's really nice.
Was
I mean, don't
because
really
we
know
live
any
in a
different,
community
but
that
it's nice.
supports
Support
that.
Right, that's
What if
right.
you had to pay an activity fee for every extra activity you do?
Yeah, that would not be
Might do fewer activities,
really
right?
expensive too. I didn't know how. I thought it was like $50 or something, but I've
Oh,
heard
no.
it's hundreds
Hundreds
of
of
dollars.
dollars.
That's crazy,
Yeah,
especially for like
I
three
wouldn't
sport
have been able to
athletes
do anything
Yeah.
pretty much.
and like uniforms, everything. So
Makes a huge
yeah,
difference.
we're lucky to have it. We came from. I mean, I never lived in Brockton, but my family lived in Brockton before they came here, and it's like a lot different there. And like I've been in this school system my whole life, but like, we're not like completely unaware of it, but it is really cool to have everything for free.
Yeah, the amount of kids that get to say like things like, "Oh, I'm in student council. I play 3 sports and I'm in the band." Whereas another school, they, I show up and then I leave at 2. And
Yeah.
just the amount of opportunities here is amazing.
Well,
And the
we're
music program's in there, I didn't mention
Yeah,
it, but.
Yeah,
I
and,
did
like
see that.
that's free, and like kids they have that huge like closet in the middle school, and kids just knock out instruments for free, which is like crazy, and like really nice instruments too. But we were talking in Euro today about like the Sharon public school system, and Mr. Kaiser was saying how kids here are so well-rounded, and that's partly because taxes in Sharon are so expensive because they don't have like Gillette, they don't have like industry like Foxborough, so like even the kids who are taking like the AP classes and like are really smart here are also involved in sports just because it's so easy to be, and in so many towns.
Yeah, it's a lot more than just test scores on a piece of paper.
Yeah.
It's a whole community thing.
I agree.
Always nice to hear your perspectives. Thank
It
you for
is,
sharing.
actually. And it is reflected in the community report, I think.
Yeah, I hope people will find the information in here valuable and a reflection of all the synthesis of all the work that we're trying to do and all the projects that we have going on.
And we have the unique things. The culture and climate survey is a big deal to put in there, and the OECD.
Yes.
So if you're coming to look at this town and you see those two things, they absolutely stand out. Because I don't think every community gets to offer that up.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
No, it's not even.
No, they don't.
I mean, even the challenge day, not that will go in there, but to hear Diana say that there were only 2 other communities in Massachusetts that are offering that to their school systems, I think it's pretty special that we are funding that and pursuing that opportunity for our kids and for our community, our faculty as well.
I agree.
We're really lucky. But we couldn't do any of it if we didn't have the support
it. It's
of
all
the
about the
community.
support. It's the
So
support of the
we're
community.
very lucky that this community continues to support the arts and education and athletics and our school budget, so.
But I think that's a really good point that you just made, because what it also does is it goes back to the community and lets them know what they're getting.
Exactly, that's right.
Agreed.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Approval of 2019-2020 school calendar.
So at our last meeting, we had a discussion on the calendar with a couple of changes as a possibility. So you have two calendars in your packet. The pink colored paper is the traditional one, and the second one, the alternative, is two differences. Number one, to move up the ending of term 1 for the middle school and the high school to the week prior, which, just for those that may not have heard before, what it does for us is when we think about term 2, it provides more time for instruction, because at the secondary level, particularly, aside from Thanksgiving, when you look at, we have 6 half-days that are within that window of time where we think about parent-teacher conferences and then midterms, and so it provides more time there for instruction. So that would be something that's advantageous by moving the term up. And then the second was proposed to go to school as a half-day on the Good Friday holiday. So those are the two calendars that you have in front of you. So I know we had wanted to have some time between the last meeting and this meeting, particularly not so much for the term date, but for going to school on Good Friday. It was something that, on our side, the faculty through the Foxborough Education Association, the union, they were in support of with going on a half day. In the last 5 years, we've pulled that day back because of the number of snow days that we've had, and have gone to school as a half day on those. Our surrounding towns around us, they're going a half day or a full day, and it is would allow more instruction at a time that's more beneficial than, say, a day in June by having the time up front.
And then we bring back a day for, in June.
Yeah,
because
so
of
it'd be
that.
the
Correct.
16th.
Yes, thank
Yep.
you, Marilyn.
Instead of the
Yes.
17th.
Yep.
Yeah, I appreciated having a few weeks to think about it and give anyone who had an opinion on it an opportunity to contact me or anybody else. I haven't heard anything negative from anyone in the community. I know we had a nice discussion about it at the parent leaders meeting.
Right.
And it was well received. And I'm perfectly inclined to, go with the proposed alternate calendar. So I'm ready to vote on it tonight, if anyone else is. I make a
Well,
motion.
Then, would you like to
Sure.
make a motion?
Yep, I'll make a motion that we approve the alternate proposed 2019-2020 calendar with the change in term 1, moving it up a week, and that we go with the half-day on Good Friday.
And we end
April
school on the 16th and alternate 23rd?
Right.
Okay, I second that.
All in favor? 4-0. Excellent.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Euchner, you are on for Borough. Thank you very much.
So one of the requirements with the MSBA is that as we develop plans for the renovation and addition of the school, certain items will come up that the town or the schools have invested a significant amount of money or resources into. Back a while ago, you voted on 2 of those, the medical key locking system and the Vigilon security system. Again, those are systems that work throughout the town. And when you make something proprietary, it means that no one can give us an or equal, because it's really not
No one
or
can
equal.
give us what?
An or equal product.
They have to
It
give
has
us
to be the exact product that we're requesting.
Oh, excellent.
The big issue, obviously, is that any key locking system is an or equal to each other. Unfortunately, if we're trying to deal with things where we have a master key that can go from building to building, that system doesn't work unless it's the same keying system. And the, as far as the cameras and stuff, as you know, we've invested hundreds of thousands of dollars, not even just here at the schools, but also town hall and other buildings throughout the town, which are all connected to the police department. So again, having not comparable systems is a big problem for us, as well as the amount of training we've put into our staff to be able to operate, run, maintain, and control that. And the final thing is the licenses. We buy basically enterprise licenses, which means that we can use those licenses across, again, the whole town with any equipment we're putting in. And we've already made those big investments. So you have to have, there has to be a good reason why you're doing a proprietary item. It can't just be because you you like one vendor over another. So it's really got to be that you've done something specific with it, or it does something different than another system. So we've already done those two. The other two that came up during the, again, the development of plans, and we're now moving into the construction document plan level. So we've really kind of tweaked and cleaned up a lot of the little issues. We're down to things like the Aruba network switches. The switch gear in our buildings basically is what operates all of our internet, all of our security cameras, all of our access codes, and key fob things. So basically, it's a switching gear, and again, they're all licensed. And they have certain operations as to how they interact with each other. So we picked Aruba a while ago. It's a very strong network switch company, number one, but it's also one of the probably the best as far as our security system goes. And, as far as protecting us, from people being able to hack into it and things of that nature. So that came up through our review as far as when we started to get into the real details of the building. The second one is the Epson interactive whiteboard technology. Again, we've spent a lot of money on the equipment itself, the training behind it, our teachers learning and understanding how to use it through their curriculum process. And, we feel that quite honestly, it's also another one of those items. So these at this point are the 4 items that we're looking at. 2 you've already voted. The other 2 have just recently been voted by the school building committee as a recommendation to come forward to you. So what I really need is a vote, if you're comfortable with adding these 2 items to our proprietary list. We may still have 1 or 2 more. I doubt it. We're starting to get very, detailed, granular stuff within our bid packages and things that are starting to be developed. But this really does come out because of all of the subcontractors who are working on this, really asking the down deep questions on how exactly are you going to do this type of thing. So I did take the time to put a little vote thing at the bottom there. And again, unless you have any questions, that's what I'd be looking for. But if you do have any questions right now, I'd be happy to answer them for you.
Are there any prohibitive costs with going down this road? I'm assuming not, and I understand the why.
Yeah,
I get it. I just thought it might be smart to ask.
It's especially the lock key, as an example, the key locking systems, again, are very comparable pricing wise. But with the medical one that you've already approved, what that gave us was the ability to have our own licenses, and no one can duplicate our keys ever. In the Aruba network switchgear, actually, we did a lot of research, and Aaron did a great job in putting that package together. We actually got phenomenal pricing when we did it in the initial thing. They're no different in price than any other switch gear. Again, it really comes down to the licensing and the knowledge of how all this stuff works, because we are plugging so much into it and expecting it to operate as far as like our wireless networks and stuff like that as well. So the interactive whiteboards, again, they're all comparable price. So it's really not a pricing thing. It's from a buying one vendor over another vendor. It's really operational and training and licensing.
Well, thank you. I think that's important to be said. I think it makes a lot of sense.
Is there anyone else have questions? I'll move to approve, that the Foxborough School Committee approves the use of proprietary equipment, namely the Aruba network switches and Epson interactive whiteboard, IWB, technology in the borough renovation and expansion project design.
I'll second it.
Any further discussion? Votes? 4-0-0. Thank you. Mr. Euchner, you're still up. The budget, please.
Budget statement we're still obviously quite a ways away from the end of the year as far as salary accounts and some of our expense lines, but we had two accounts basically under the district technology side of things. I think it's page 7. No, I'm sorry, page 5. Where we had 2 positions that had been vacant for part of the year. The first one was the integration specialist for the high school level, which we have just filled. She started today. So we obviously didn't spend that salary from July 1st on. And the second one was one of our network positions, which was vacant for 2 months, I believe, has now been filled. Ironically, we were very fortunate. The the person who left came back. And it's really, he's a very talented individual, so we're happy to have him back. Sometimes I guess the grass is not always greener on the other side, so it turned out well for us.
Good.
But, so between the two of them, basically, at this point in the year, we've saved just under $63,000 that we will not spend, obviously, because we have limited time left in the year in those two positions. On page 6, one of the changes is under the plant operations, and it's really was under building services, contracted services. As you know, last year you gave me the authority to upgrade the heating system at the Taylor, similar to what we had done at the IGO. One of the add-on pieces that we had a lot of luck with on the IGO, and we pursued it on the Taylor as well, and that was to get into VRF pumps, which are basically variable speed pumps. Again, it's all an efficiency thing for power usage. And so we were able to actually complete that entire process in the exact same way we did the IGO, which is probably the most efficient boiler heating systems that you can have at this point, and should last us a significant amount of years. We first did the Viessmann boilers at the first project we did them on was at the Ahern in 2002, and they're still running very well, to report. We then did them in the high school. Again, this is a very large building, as is the Ahern, and I've had equal success. So now we basically have them in 4 of our 5 buildings, and obviously the Borough is our next. And each one of them is a different platform. They're all different based on the building that we're trying to operate in, and very good. So I think our energy efficiency side, again, we said that when we had some of the savings from the solar in the first couple of years, we would dedicate that towards the LED lighting and towards major efficiencies that we could do in plant. And obviously the boilers are the biggest that we can do. So the town's actually in a good position because we have fully LED'd all buildings from all lighting, and we've also now done, like I said, 4 out of the 5 buildings is about efficient from a heating plant point as you can be, and in good shape for a number of years. So we really have saved ourselves. And we were able to use programs that had large rebate programs behind National Grid and Columbia Gas that also helped keep the cost way down for us in doing those propositions. So those are the only real changes at this point, which basically gives us about a $42,665 favorable position. I still believe we will be turning back some more money from the solar side this year, because again, we've done pretty much, we're looking to see if there's any other projects we can do under the energy efficiency side, but that was our promise, was to use it in that sense. The only problem we just ran into, or I think I notified you we ran into before, was that the solar credits are distributed amongst all of our school bills, for each building, as well as to a couple of the town buildings. And the issue we just ran into is that under one of the agreements that was signed, a portion of our actual supply cost for the Ahern, which is our biggest power user, has been carved out of our National Grid bill, and that's where the solar credit goes to. So I'm working with the companies to try to get that back under it.
How did that happen?
There was an agreement on the town side when they went out to bid on it, and they didn't quite understand how the process would change for us, and everything else has worked out very effectively, but this one's kind of a gotcha. And it just came out last month with the first bill under that new program. So we're trying to figure out how to get it back under. I'm sure we will. So we may not have quite as much savings this year as we want, but we still have a very large number that we're looking at. So I'm not real concerned about it. It's just another project to deal with. So other than that, as I said, it's really too early on the salaries. I will say that we have had a higher level of, staff outages this year, some really hard cases with flus and things like that, which longer durations, which obviously we're paying for a substitute as well as the teacher, and not just teachers, it's at assistants, it's, custodians, it's everything. So we've had a higher number there, so that is going to push that number in our budget a little bit, but, again, it's something we'll watch until we get to the end of the year.
The flu was worse this year, then.
The cases are worse. It's usually, if somebody is out this year where they might have been out for a couple of
Duration.
days, the duration is longer, is what we're seeing at least, so. so.
Excellent. Do we need this accepted?
Yes, please.
I move to accept the budget update as presented by Mr. Yurkna.
I'll second that.
All in favor? 400, thank you. And now on to donations.
So we have 3 wonderful donations to present to you.
I know, my,
Ridiculous.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty
my
good.
eyes
I know.
almost popped.
The first one here that you have, which is for the Journey to Australia by Dorenzo Corporation donation for $83,313.
It was like,
This is matching what the music gala was able to raise.
So this
we
was a
raised,
matching fund.
yes, so they were going to match up to $100,000. And the gala that many of us attended,
Yep.
which was wonderful, raised
Fantastic.
$83,313. So they are matching
Wow.
that amount.
wow.
So total, they're over $165,000 at this point.
Correct. So right now, at this point in time, we have 43 students
That are funded.
that are funded to go, and it ends up being about $1,100 per student right now, as far as what the cost is to them based on all of this fundraising efforts.
So how many are,
43 students at this, we just added 13 students, so we have 43 students at this point in time.
and how many hope to go?
43. 43.
Oh, so-
We just added 13, so additional students to bring us to 43.
But $1,100 for a two-week
two-week
trip
trip
to
to
Sydney,
Australia.
Australia is
Yeah.
very
I'm in.
manageable. So,
Can I go? Yeah.
yeah, the gala was wonderful, and I
11
mean, this is an incredibly generous matching donation, but there were a lot of very hardworking and dedicated people who made that gala happen. And
Yes.
a lot of a lot of help from the Lakeview Pavilion in providing the venue, and we're very fortunate to have some good people working on this to
And
support our students and our staff.
And I know that we'll have another opportunity to be thanking so many of
Everybody,
these
yeah.
people that have come forward with time, with funds, with ideas. I mean, it has been extraordinary.
I'd be honored to accept this donation in the amount of $83,313 for the Journey to Australia from the J. Dorenzo Company. With gratitude.
Yeah, I'd say big sign.
Extreme
Mucho
gratitude.
gratitude.
Yes, thank you to David and Karen Howe.
Yes, absolutely.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second it.
All in favor? Or is there, what kind of a company is J. Dorenzo Company?
They're construction.
Construction.
Yeah,
What?
Construction.
They have a bunch of contracts with like the MBTA and that sort of thing, I think.
Before we move on to the next donation, Dr. Bernos, I was going to bring this up during other matters, but this actually seems like a more appropriate place to bring it up, is the FMA was just granted or awarded, as being presented this award this Friday. It's the Music Advocacy Award by the Mass Music Educators Association. I guess Cami Tadoldi nominated our parent group, the Foxborough Music Association, for this award, and they won it, which is phenomenal.
Well, this is
And-
a perfect segue.
And yes, rather than wait, I thought I would bring that up. So they're being presented. So there were so many people who throughout the years, I know Richard knows very well, how many man and woman and child and grandparent hours have gone into supporting the FMA, and how many people are still involved even after their children are long graduated from Foxborough High School and supporting our music program. So it's pretty exciting. I know we've talked about our parent partners and our different parent groups, so we're so fortunate. But this is a pretty neat award for our music department. And before we move on from that, our jazz ensemble is going to essentially Ellington. So
Again, do we know the
again-
dates of that yet?
Yes, I want to say, it's Mother's Day weekend, so I think it's May 9th, 10th, and 11th that they're at Ellington. And they are the
That's
only,
exciting.
of 15 schools, they are the only school from Massachusetts. And
Really?
Make it this year?
Lexington did not make it this year. They're the only school from Massachusetts that's going, and I think they're probably the smallest school in the lineup. I don't know that for a fact, but, and I think about half of the schools are actually performing arts schools.
I know, to think that
so
we make it
it
with
is
those
pretty amazing. So I'm jumping ahead, but it seemed appropriate with this donation and all the support we have. So I'll stop talking and let us go back to
No,
accepting
I'm glad I
donations.
had to from Cammie as well, talking about that award, because Allison and I will both be there on
Oh,
Friday
good.
when they are accepting that.
And
I'll
where will this
I'll
be?
expect to see some tweets.
Yes, you definitely will. But
In Boston this
and I
Friday?
just think it's something where all of the music staff under Cammie's leadership, like you said, nominated them for this. And if I may, I'd like to just read what the criteria was.
Oh, please, yes.
For that. So, so the award is given to any individual, organization, or community leaders who qualify under the following criteria. Number one is active as an advocate for music education in the school or community. Clearly, the FMA is that. Two, show strong leadership in the community and good rapport with teachers, parents, students, and administrators. We can see why they easily won so far, right? The third, candidates' efforts have led to a financial commitment for music education by the school system and community. And four, candidates' efforts have led to improvements in curriculum, budget, or enrollment in the music program. So when you look at that criteria, you can see how they must have just risen right to the top, and it was just a no-brainer to award that
And
to them.
who is giving this award again?
This is the Arts Advocacy Award.
Arts
And it's, they're receiving this and being recognized at the annual All-State Festival.
The
Which is on Boston-
Massachusetts
in Boston.
Music Educators Association.
Yes, thank you.
MMEA.
There you go. There we go.
They have an all-state conference every year where the students perform. So all the students that make the all-state bands and choruses and jazz ensembles, they're attending the all-state, preparing for the all-state concert. And they developed this probably about 22, 3, 4, 5 years ago. They started a Music Advocacy Award and a Lowell Mason Music Education Award to recognize all those things that are happening in their towns. So this is just a great treat for Foxborough.
I'm surprised.
Well, long overdue
I was
for
gonna say, I'm
Foxborough
surprised.
by a whole bunch, but it's wonderful.
Well,
Just
it's a
wonderful.
culmination of many, many years of effort by a lot of people in the community. So it's not just this, I mean, this year's board has worked very, very hard, but there've been a
For
lot of
years.
people who have supported the FMA throughout the years, and this is for all of them as well.
So our second donation this evening is from the Rotary Club. Our Credit for Life fair is tomorrow. And this is $500 in support as they continue to support the Credit for Life fair, which is a wonderful experience for our students.
Great experience.
Excellent.
I'd move we accept the donation from the Rotary Club for $500 for our Credit for Life fair and program.
Second that?
All in favor? 400.
And then the last donation this evening is for $1,133.95. It's for a die cut machine, which is being provided by the Taylor PTO. And die cut machines are wonderful. If you are an elementary teacher, they are priceless. You're
They're awesome.
absolutely right.
Use them for everything.
They never have them in high school.
I would like to accept the donation to Foxborough Public Schools, the amount of $1,133.95 for the die cut machine at the Taylor, Charles Taylor PTO is donated to the Taylor School.
I'll second.
All in favor? 400. Thank you very much.
You are catching up tonight, though.
I know, I'll get caught up.
Giving him a chance.
Slow and steady wins the race.
Take turns.
Well, on to other matters, people.
I would, I hate to bring the essential Ellington up again, but it's something I thought of, so I did want to bring it up again, since I have a little feeling of what it's all about. But I think everyone probably knows this, and we've probably said it every year they've been accepted, but this is the top 15 bands in North America. So that's like, that's the
That
real deal.
includes Canada.
That includes
I mean,
Canada, absolutely.
It's not just US.
And this is the 24th essentially Ellington Festival. I was looking some of this stuff up.
Oh, this is the 24th?
It's the 24th, and I think Foxborough's gone 18 times. I checked on that too. And there's probably only 2 other schools out from Seattle that are even close to that.
And
Garfield.
are they on, is that whole list must be published now somewhere?
It is published, and it's kind of tough to find it, but I mean, the Wikipedia site has a pretty detailed list by state.
Because
So
those
you can-
same Seattle ones.
Yeah,
are
the Seattle
probably-
ones, and they had a real strong press in their music education there. But anyways, I think the real proud thing is to really thank Aaron Bush and Brian Raymond for their continued work at this level, because to function at this level in a small program in a small town is really amazingly special. When there's like Garfield and Roosevelt, those guys have 3 and 4 jazz bands. It's like 2,000 people in their school. They're gigantic schools. Now but to do what Foxborough has done with their tight group of musicians and really to do that is really phenomenal. And the other piece of it too, and I think all the kids would say it, the process is so much of the product. Because it's not like every one of those Essential Ellington kids is going to be a musician, professional musician. It's not that easy to do, right? But the hours and time that it gets to do that is just phenomenal. So I just think it's a great thing. Every time I think about it, that Foxborough's done it, to know what they've done, to be at that elite level consistently, and so proud of Aaron in his first few years here to really take it to that same elite level, and Brian as well too, sorry.
Yes.
So I just think it was great, so I wanted to mention that. It's just really special. It's something so unique.
It is so incredible, and I had the pleasure of going. My son was with 2 years ago when they went. Jack was in the jazz band, and it is an amazing experience for the students and for their families. It's pretty impressive when you can say your child's played at Symphony Hall in Boston and at Lincoln Center, and I mean, these kids can throw in, Gillette Stadium and Fenway Park as well, this time around, because they've been in the marching band as well. But it is an amazing experience, and if anybody's interested, if they go on the Jazz at Lincoln Center Facebook page, I think they'll give you live stream performance times for the schools when they're there. So you can, I know my mother watched it live when Jack was there. So it's really an awesome experience. I don't think we can
You can't say
talk about
nothing.
it enough. No.
The thoroughness of the program
Is it true?
straight through from grade 4 and 5 all the way up. And probably too,
It's true.
thanking the school system and the high school and everyone for making it work and putting value on music. Because everyone has to do that. The schedule has to work in the high school for that, and everyone has to jump on board with that. So, everyone's kind of a big part of something very, very special.
It's true.
So,
Very true.
just good for them. Congratulations.
Yeah, absolutely.
Tomorrow's the Credit for Life Fair, as you mentioned, with Ellen Pillsbury, our career specialist. It's at Showcase Live at Gillette Stadium, and I'll be renting apartments again. You guys going?
Nice,
So don't spend your money on cable or fancy cars, because I'll be sending you for credit.
They have to figure it out
You
themselves.
might have to get roommates, because everyone spends the money before they get to us, and we're like the roof over
Where you
your
gonna
head.
live? Yeah.
It's the
Kind of
car.
important.
It's the car.
Yeah.
The car is almost
No,
always
it
the
is.
downfall.
It's the cable. It's the cable and all the toys you guys buy. Just saying. All right, so don't go to the fun table first.
Yeah.
Get your apartment first. Just saying. I've done this for years.
His phone bill.
Tomorrow, we also have the Professional Educators Union negotiations along with Tina. We'll be doing it with you guys tomorrow. And we also have the interview committee meeting for our new middle school principal. We'll be culling down our 29 resumes and seeing what
That's
rises to the
exciting.
top. Yeah, a lot of reading.
Oh, yes.
A lot of reading, a little bit less than last year. And I do have to make an announcement. After 21 years of working within the school system behind the scenes and 4 years on the school committee, I am going to step down this year. So there will be 2 seats available. It wasn't an easy decision. And, I gave it a lot of thought. And I think right now, at this time in my life, this is what I need to do. And I've been thankful for all the opportunities that have been given to me and appreciate it all. So, and we have a wonderful team here. You guys are going to make wonderful things happen. I've worked through a lot of administrators over the years. So I'm really excited for what's going to happen with you two, and I will be watching. And I'll always be available. I'm sure Ellen will be calling me. I'm sure John McCabe will be calling me for DECA. I'll still be available to volunteer, but I think I'll It's easier for me at this point.
That is if you are not on one of your husband's trips with him somewhere.
Oh, I didn't miss anything for that. I didn't miss any school committee meetings with all the traveling we did this year. There was a lot of extenuating circumstances.
Well, his
We had
travel
a lot of
may-
weddings.
Yes, his travel may cut into some of your volunteering hours.
Yes, but, yeah, so.
Well, thank you for all your hours of service.
I
and
enjoyed
all your
every moment of it.
You're not done yet.
I was going to say, we still have a few more
We
meetings.
have
Those things I'm doing
We
tomorrow.
have you until the end of April, Marilyn.
important things to do in the next
I got a lot of things tomorrow.
February.
I'll see you tomorrow.
Yeah, no kidding.
It's very much
Yeah,
appreciated.
you
Thanks
have,
for your work.
Thank you, we'll miss you.
But you're not going to be far.
no, she
You guys are gonna
has,
make me cry, so.
she has a cell phone.
Yes.
I might change my cell phone number. They all know my email, though. It's too easy.
Just gonna say a well-known email, but I didn't say it.
Everyone knows my email.
I had a couple more things because we've had so much happen since
Well,
the last
I know,
time we were
but
here.
this is an exciting
It is
system
there's a lot of good things
in which
going
to
on.
live and celebrate.
True, very true. The ECG testing is this Wednesday. I know I have my son signed up to do it, and I hope that everybody is signed up to do it because it's an exciting. It was in the Reporter last week. It's been on Twitter and on Facebook, and it's an exciting opportunity for a lot of kids.
And we had an
that-
uptick in registrations after the article was in the Reporter and the
Oh,
Sun
good.
Chronicle too.
For
The ECG testing.
And it-
oh, good.
And so so that I wanted to mention that, and also the vaping presentation, the beginning of this month with the Board of Health and the school administration here. I attended it, and I thought it was very informative. I was glad we did it. I know Foxborough Cable Access taped it, so hopefully that presentation will be available for parents to look at on the website if they weren't able to attend. It was very informative, and I'm glad that we're continuing to educate parents and families about the dangers of vaping. I know our Link Crew leaders also did presentations to their groups of freshmen about vaping. So I think it is a serious issue that we need to continue to pursue, and I'm glad that we're kind of staying on top of things.
And
as a
principals
community.
have, to that point, they have queued up in School Messenger right now. The email is going out tomorrow with the link to Foxborough Cable's,
Oh, wonderful.
to the recording.
Excellent.
Excellent.
That's great.
Yes, it's all ready. We didn't want to send it out today, the first day from vacation. We thought if we waited till Tuesday.
No, I think you're right.
But
Timing is everything,
People
but
just-
it
right.
is, I didn't know if the presentation was
It's
done
all,
or not.
they've
but I
edited,
think
it's all
that's-
ready. The
that's
hard part is,
fantastic.
you know, from sitting in the audience where we didn't have mics.
Yeah.
And the audience, so it's hard to hear some of the Q&A
Mm-hmm.
part. But as far as the presentation itself, I agree. It was such great information, and I know I definitely took some new things away from it.
I did as well. It was very good. So thank you for that. Those were I think I've covered everything else during the course of the meeting, but there's all kinds of good things going on. Good luck to all of our sports teams that are in the playoffs. As Diana said, hockey won this afternoon, and I know our basketball teams and our wrestling team did phenomenally well, and we got all kinds of good things. Our swim team, everyone's doing great. No, they're done, but y'all did well.
Yeah, we did
Everyone,
okay.
you did
Wasn't
did well. All of our winter sports teams did great, and spring sports start next week. Tryouts coming up.
18th.
Couple weeks.
Go on Family ID.
March
register.
18.
Yeah.
March 18th.
All right.
No more snow. Let them get on the fields on the 18th.
Yes.
Everyone will be happy
Fingers
if they get on their
crossed.
fields.
Fingers crossed on that.
Rich,
I'm done. I'm done.
did you have any extras?
I did. To piggyback on the principal search, we had our parent focus group this evening where they did ask about the vaping presentation, actually, so it's good to know that's going out tomorrow. That was supposed to be last week, but it was rescheduled because of the weather. So we have a focus group with the staff tomorrow, leading up to our meeting where we finish the screening, and we hope to hold interviews next week and hope to wrap up the entire process by April 1st. So we are on schedule with that.
Excellent.
People had asked if we were behind due to the weather. And there is a performance this weekend of Clue here at the high school.
Oh,
That sounds like fun.
Yes. So I will be attending on Saturday evening. I'm looking forward to it.
I'll be there Friday night.
Another
So-
show you should come see, March 8th and 9th, is Godspell, 4 p.m. Good, so.
The Maryland.
Ticket.
I have my tickets for Friday night, and you're right, we do have a lot of FHS performers who are going to be at the
In that.
Orpheum. Yep, in that performance, yep, absolutely.
I think they've all been covered, all
I
the
know,
topics, so
all
this is
these are
fantastic.
Well, an interested, informed school committee,
Yes, excellent.
and enthusiastic. All right, if there are no more questions, meeting adjourned.
We have to move to adjourn.
What you want?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay, I'm moving to adjourn. I couldn't get my hand up.
All in favor, Marilyn, you
Marilyn, raise your hand.
Marilyn she just raised two hands.
She raised her hand. Her hand went up.
Sorry.
I
Are you getting out there yet? Sorry.
I am very, very tired.
I'm sorry.
No, I adjourned the meeting without having
Oh,
a
no,
motion
not
and
mine.
seconded. No, it was my fault. So we said, raise your hand, and they both went up like that. I said, that counts.
That counts.